We are your hosts. I am Dr. Jonathan Matthias Lassiter.
And I am Marquita Moten.
So, who the hell are we?
I am a master's level therapist with a degree in clinical mental health.
And I am a licensed clinical psychologist, professor, and author. So, what are we talking about today, Keita?
You tell me.
Well, I wanted to talk about signing up for pain. And what I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is there are ways in which we all, and including me, I'm not exempt, have colluded in our own harm.
So what prompted this topic of discussion?
Well, there was a popular YouTube blogger or vlogger, depending on how you want to say that, who was known for berating Black women, and recently passed away. And, I don't delight in anyone's death because that's just not who I am. And that's really not the point of this. The point is, though, that this person had millions of followers, and had been doing these YouTube shows for a long time, telling Black men how they can better themselves. And then it was when he started telling Black women how basically they were good enough for these men who had bettered themselves and all the things they needed to do to better themselves, and literally ranking them, talking about high value, low value, etc., that he grew very popular and Black women became his largest fan base. And so it really made me think, because, you and I do this show and we do it for a lot of different reasons. Part of it is it's just nice to talk. It gives us the opportunity to have some time together and chit chat because we're both so busy trying to accomplish the goals and the purpose that, we have for our lives. But another part of that is that we hope we help someone.
Right. Yeah.
Right? However, it often seems that people will sign up for a distraction and collude in their own pain before they go and actually sign up for something that is going to help them get to the root of the issue and actually get real healing. And so when I found out that Black women were the largest percentage of this person's audience, it made me, I was like, what is going on here? Why would you sign up to be berated, to be told that you're not thin enough for a man that makes six figures? You need to drop some LBs, you need to get a boob job, you need to do this, you need to do that. But you tuning in every week for this? What? I'm confused. Why would you sign up for your own pain? Or maybe it's not your pain, which is another thing.
So I know who you're talking about, and I have never been here for him. I listened to him for like 30 seconds, and then I was like, why are people listening to him?
Yeah, right. Isn't that I feel like that's the immediate thought of anyone who has any sort of healing in their life.
Yes. Yes. Because I felt like everything he said was superficial.
Right.
Which goes into answering your question. So overarchingly, the entirety of what you just described just makes me feel sad. Because I can see immediately why there would be several reasons for the majority of his audience to be Black women. One is trauma. As we both know, people sometimes attempt to resolve the trauma they've experienced by continuing to have it play out in their lives.
Yep.
And they don't necessarily realize that that's what they're doing, but that's what they're doing. Like people who, this just an example, um, growing up in an abusive household may seek, unconsciously seek,
Mhm.
and choose partners, whether it's a man or a woman,
Mhm.
seek partners who are also abusive because that's what they're used to. And
Right.
they don't necessarily recognize that that is the pattern of behavior. But I do think that that is probably a strong, compelling factor in the fact that these women were listening to him. It's just their own trauma, regardless of what that trauma was. But hearing that they are not good enough or using his opinion of them as a mile marker of their own progress because they may have felt like they were changed and they're probably right, but listening to him basically reminded them where they came from, and it's just familiar. That's
Mhm.
it. You know, we used to talk about this a lot when I worked with the kids in the psych hospital. They would be like, I want my mama.
Mhm.
Now, they would have adoptive parents who were loving, who were generous, who were kind, who treated them well. But they would ask for the mama that beat them up, tied them to the bed, didn't feed them. That's the mama you want.
Mhm.
But it's the familiarity.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard the phrase, the hell you know and the hell you don't know.
Oh yes. Mhm.
So people are more comfortable with the hell they know.
Mhm.
I like to say the hell you know and the heaven you don't know because
Mhm.
you don't know what's possible or what's available if you just continue to stick with what's familiar. And so I think that's part of it,
Mhm.
as well as seeking validation for their existence. A lot of people still do that in different ways, whether they seek it through social media, comparing themselves to, um, other women, other men that they see or whatever. But I think that the strongest reason is probably just replaying that trauma in an attempt to resolve it, but just not having the awareness that that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because I don't know a good reason, nor do I feel compelled in any way, shape, or form
Mhm.
to sign myself up to let somebody abuse me or make me feel less than I am. Because as we discussed previously, who I am today took work. And
Yeah.
I take pride in that work. I was intentional about that work. So
Mhm.
to have somebody look at me, judge me physically, and then tell me that I ain't nothing,
Mhm.
there's nothing in me that has a desire for that experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do get how someone could choose unconsciously
Mhm.
to sign up for that form of pain if pain is what they're used to.
Yeah. That really hit me. If pain is what you're used to, and as a therapist, I have definitely and still do work with clients who are comfortable, and I say comfortable not even on a conscious level, because of course they're there
It's
because
all
they're
unconscious.
saying they're uncomfortable, but they feel actually more at equilibrium,
Mm,
physiologically speaking, emotionally speaking, in those traumatic environments than they do in environments where there is calm. Because I've heard clients who have been able to cultivate a calm environment for themselves, and then they say, "Yeah, but that's boring," or "Yeah, but I don't really feel anything in this environment." It was like, no, that's good. Like, because you are not at an extreme
mm-hmm,
does not mean that you have ceased to live. Like, this is the
mm-hmm.
living is right here in this middle zone and not at an extreme.
Yes. I
right?
like that you highlighted extremes
Mm-hmm.
too, because some people think if they're not feeling manic or depressed,
Mm-hmm.
that they're not feeling anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, yeah, there's an entire range of emotion in between that. There's an entire range of experiences that don't have to be extreme. Like you
Right.
said, they don't have to be super elated
Mm-hmm.
or super depressed, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but also, if that's what they're used to, then anything other than that will feel either like nothing or it will be uncomfortable.
Yep. And so then they get into these situations where they need to create an environment that is chaotic, an environment that is
Mm,
extreme, so that
mhm,
they feel something and it feels comfortable to them, again, on an unconscious level. And it does, it does make me sad as well when I think about how hard it is for some people to, and again, I say some people because, I had my own journey, so I don't exclude myself from from understanding this mentality. But
mhm.
and again, as we talked about before, it's just part of the spiritual growth process. I mean, it's part of that journey. But it's like, wow, it's just like, this is what you think you deserve. This is what you think is available to you. This is what you think um is right for you,
Mhm.
you know? Um and to your point about some people use it as a measuring stick. But again, that's that extrinsic self-worth, and not intrinsic self-worth.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
so now you're looking outside of yourself for someone else to validate your self-worth. You don't have any for yourself, or you find it difficult to validate it on your own.
Mhm.
And so what is that about? Right. And again, part of that's also part of trauma, right? Is that some people who experience traumatic environments, they have not been in control. And so they're used to control being external to them.
Yeah. And you know what else just occurred to me? I'm sure some of these women were probably listening because they didn't have any type of what's the word? I don't want to say yardstick, but they didn't have any type of guide, I should say.
Guidance. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so they may be looking and listening to him as a guide
Mm,
for like, okay, well, if I want a good man, whatever their idea of good is, because I didn't hear him describe what I would call a good man. I
right.
never heard him say anything about anyone's character.
Mm-hmm.
It was how much money you make, how much you weigh, and then there was a determination made from there.
Mm-hmm.
But um that was the primary thing that I noticed from him. He did try to have some type of I guess convey some type of concept of being equally yoked.
Mm.
But I think, which I don't have a problem with being
Right.
equally yoked, but my issue with him was determining how you were yoked to begin with. It
Mm.
was like if your weight and your income are somehow
And not
added
just your
together
weight, but your looks, period.
and
Mm-hmm.
your physical appearance,
Mm-hmm.
which is subjective because he can see someone and be like, "Oh God, no," and
Right.
then another man can see that same person, or another woman can see that same person and be like, "Oh my God, it's the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life."
Mm-hmm.
So none of that has any weight at all. It was just solely his subjective opinion,
Mm-hmm.
but he would use that and create a measurement, a standard of measurement. And so I feel like the standard of measurement in and of itself is faulty, and therefore you can't determine whether or not someone is equally yoked for someone else when the determining factor is already cracked.
Right. Right.
So that's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see how some women and some men who were not given, because he judged men as well, equally just as harshly,
Mhm.
um, who were not provided with a guide
Mhm.
that included building character, um, any type of progress towards self-actualization and empowerment and all those things that we try to foster in our clients. I can see them looking externally, like you said, for a guide. And so he definitely gave his opinion about what certain factors should be. And so I can see how people might use them as actual stepping stones. Okay, well, I can achieve that. I can have that income.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I can lose 20 pounds.
Mhm.
Okay, and then that'll add to my value.
Yeah.
That'll make others see me
Yeah.
as worthy.
Yeah. The
And
issue
that is just so deep.
the issue of self-worth is so deep.
Oh
It's
my God.
so
Yeah.
deep. And the fact that I'm getting a little emotional right now because I've struggled with self-worth in my life. And but why was I struggling with self-worth? It was because I was putting the emphasis on external things,
Hmm.
right? How I talked, how tall I was, how I looked, what career I had, what my grades were, et cetera, et cetera. Um, Not realizing, listen, as Lauren Hill once said, and deep, right, in my
Mhm.
heart,
Mhm.
the answer was in me,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, it was always there. Like we talked about becoming reawakened or remembering our purpose. It was always there. But I know that sort of dark place, what it's like to be in that dark place of not
Mhm.
having self-worth or questioning your own self-worth and looking externally for it. And whenever we look externally for anything, 9 times out of 10, we are not going to be fulfilled.
Mhm.
We are not going
Yeah.
to be fulfilled. And looking for guidance outside of ourselves. Not to say that people can't help us in our journey, because they definitely can. We're social people. Um, People can definitely help us in our journey, but people don't know our journey better than us.
Yeah. I
And
definitely
we can allow others to define our journey.
yes. Yeah. I agree with you. I think that self-worth is something that most people struggle with,
Mm.
myself included, and it manifests in different ways that people may not perceive as being about worthiness, but that's absolutely what it is. And so when you have someone, a true guide, like you said, someone like us, or other great therapists as well,
Mhm.
who can help you navigate who you are as an individual and affirm the greatness within you that is inherent simply because you exist.
Yes.
And that is what's valuable.
Mhm.
And I like that you highlighted again the external factor and the fact that, seeking someone to be a guide. I agree with you. We are all here to guide one another, because if we weren't, then the creator would have only made one person.
Mhm.
And so the fact that there are many of us here means that we are here to help each other. We're here to bring each other to different awarenesses. We're here to highlight for each other, you know, what greatness and what pain points, what areas of healing
Mhm.
we have that are available, right? I was talking to one of my friends the other day, and I made this comment. We were talking about dating, and I made this comment, and he was like, "Why did you think that?" He was like that. He was like, that's an insecurity that you might want to examine, because that thought never occurs to me, and it's not something that most people think. And so, had he not said that, I would have thought it was normal for me to be assuming
Mm,
that particular reason as to why I hadn't had a date in a while. But now he got me thinking.
mhm,
And I think that it's important for us to have that, for to have someone to say, that's something you might want to look into.
right,
That's something you might want to examine,
mhm,
um, so that we can continue to grow. But I think a key factor in that is being discerning in where that guidance is coming from.
yes,
I
yes,
personally believe that there is inherently within us a compass
mhm,
that allows us to know when someone is coming from a place of love and support, and from a perspective of truly fostering well-being within us, and when someone is purely coming from a place of judgment, or seeking to embarrass, or somebody clout chasing, or trying to get more views or whatever, because some people thrive on uh, controversial issues. They thrive on being controversial
yep, mhm,
because it makes them money.
mhm,
And so, being mindful of whether you're signing up for something real,
mhm,
or if you're signing up to be part of somebody's media team.
mm, yeah, that part. And another thing that you said was well-being within. And I think about well-being within. Are we seeking, is our guides helping us cultivate well-being within, or are they leading us outside of ourselves for that
Mm.
well-being? And to me,
Yeah,
that's a
I
telltale.
love it.
That's a telltale. I mean, and don't
Mhm.
get me wrong, we live in a capitalist, materialist, material society where we need material things. That's
Mhm.
different than those material things giving us worth and value.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like,
Mhm.
when people, I was talking to my mom recently about how for some people it's easy to be impressed by certain things. Like,
Mhm.
I've met people who be like down in themselves and say, "Oh, well, such and such went to college. I didn't finish."
Mhm.
Or, "Well, such and such did this, and well, they smart because blah blah blah." No, they ain't.
Right.
None of that stuff has anything to do with anything. They are not better than you because they went to school. That
Right.
does not make them intelligent. It doesn't mean anything. Who are they at the end of the day? Same thing with people in certain positions. There are a lot of people who are afraid of management in their job. And by afraid, I mean like, oh well, I it used to always irritate me when I would be at work and somebody would be like, "Oh, well, we gonna get in trouble at such and such." They can't whoop me. What you mean be in trouble? This is a job. You know what I'm saying? So that used to throw me off. But there are people that have that mentality, or they feel like, well, I can't be honest with my manager because I might get fired or whatever. And it might be right. But I don't think like that.
Mhm.
Nobody has authority over you
Mhm.
to judge you. And also, your character is the most important. And character is something that everybody has, it is something that everybody can develop. It's something that is completely irrespective of level of education, occupation, of marital status, of race, whatever.
Mhm.
Character is what matters.
Yep.
And so, anytime people try to give people all these external accolades, like, as if that adds value to the person,
Mhm.
it does not.
Right.
Because if you were to strip those accolades, who would they be?
Right. Yeah. That
When
part.
I was back when I was a church going girl,
Yeah.
I I implemented this on internal program
Mhm.
that I still use, because I do still watch, some sermons and stuff like that. But The question I ask is, if such and such didn't have this title, would they still be a righteous person?
Mm.
And that is just something I use for my own personal
Mhm.
awareness of what I'm taking in, because we talked about sustenance before, and
Mhm.
it is all sustenance. Whether you hear it, whether you consume it physically, whether you see it, it is sustenance, and it is imperative to be mindful of what you're consuming, what you're allowing into your being. And so that's the question I ask. And if the answer to that question is no, then I can't listen to that person.
Yeah.
And that's me, because
Yeah.
there are many people who do listen to those people, but I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
So the same thing with this particular vlogger. If he were not a vlogger, so just paring down to who he really is, right? If he weren't a vlogger, if he wasn't famous,
Mhm.
and you met him on the street and he said that same stuff to you,
Mhm.
would it hold as much weight?
Mhm. Yeah.
And if the answer is no, then why are you listening to him?
Yeah.
Or why are you listening to her?
Right. Yeah. And I think we can leave it right there because that's really what it comes down to. Is who are we listening to? Why are we listening to them? Is this person signing us up to look within or to base our value on something outside of us? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's do a replay and give the folks some take home points. So I'm gonna let you do it today. What's the take home points?
So take home points are: consider whether what you are taking in for self improvement is external or if it's internal. Is it building your character or is it putting a lace front on you? Um, Also, be mindful of the source of your guidance. Recognize what even listening to them does to you. How does it feel to be told whatever they're telling you? And if it doesn't feel good, that's your own internal compass saying, this ain't it. This ain't the person you need to be listening to. I'm not saying that all growth feels good, but you should have some awareness within you that growth can be garnered without harm being done.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And also just think a little bit about the patterns in your life that you're creating and where those are coming from. Are you seeking this guidance from this specific person because of some trauma that they remind you of?
Yes. Yes. Well, I think we can leave it right there, folks. Y'all got a lot to think about. So
Yeah.
go forth, think about it, talk about it. And while you're at it, like, subscribe, comment, and let us know what you think about what we saying. Maybe you're like, nah, y'all don't know what y'all talking about. He knew what he was talking about, blah, blah, blah. That's fine to dandy, but y'all living in the make-believe world. Everybody ain't like that, et cetera, et cetera. And that's cool. Let us know. Talk to us.
Mm-hmm.
Let us know. Um, or you think, oh no, that was really helpful. Let us know that too. All right. And until next time, we will see you. Oh, don't forget, we have the podcast that is a continuation of this conversation. So be
Mm-hmm.
sure to listen to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, Fly on the Wall, the podcast. And we'll see you next time. Love you, Keita.
Love you too. Bye bye.
Bye.